As we continue with the great one, Mark Levin, his brand new book, Ameritopia, The Unmaking of America. It's in stores today. You do something pretty amazing in this book. You break it into three parts, and you start out with utopianism, and you go through, and this is where you do all the hard work and all the legwork, because you read all of these guys, and you talk specifically about Plato, about Thomas More, Thomas Hobbes, you talk about Karl Marx, and you explain, you pulled out of their works the relevant portions that really are relevant to today's society, and how there's always been this underlying philosophy that there can be this great utopia. Explain this.
Well, what is it that animates people to be attracted to a philosophy that destroys them? I mean, utopianism is what undergirds the push for statism. These massive promises of a paradise, of equality, of wealth creation, if you'll only surrender more of your liberty and surrender more of your private property. In other words, surrender yourself, your humanity, to basically a handful of masterminds. And you have to ask yourself, where do these masterminds get all this information from? Why are they so smart? How do you become a community rabble-rouser and suddenly you can run every aspect of society? The answer is you can't. And so they have to try and persuade people that they can. And what they use, and the reason I use these great philosophers, even though these works that they wrote are horrific, the reason I use them is because, take Plato. He creates a caste system. He calls it an ideal, perfect society, tries it twice, and then fails. Take Thomas More. He creates utopia. He invents the word. What is it? It's radical egalitarianism, the precursor to communism. Take Thomas Hobbes. What does he create, among other things? He creates an all-powerful sovereign, and the rest of the people are subjects. And then you have Marx and the workers' paradox.
But what's fascinating to me is, I've said this to you before. The other day I said, I got this book back in early November, and I've read it now twice. And literally, there's very few books that I read where every sentence you and I could spend 10 minutes on. We're really just going to have time for a broad overview. Isn't one of the reasons maybe it's appealing to people because there's this sense that, oh, don't worry, we'll take care of you, the caretaker state. There's a sense of relief that somebody else will do it. Is that part of the appeal of it?
People want heaven on earth. People want to be told they can get something for nothing. It's very complicated. We have people in the society who are malcontents, who have concluded that they're not the problem, but society is the problem, and they demand society should change. We have other people in the society who've benefited enormously from liberty and private property rights, and yet they throw in with this, too, because they want to be part of it.
Yeah, and but then you look at the other side of this in part two on Americanism, and you look at guys like John Locke and the influence that he had on our founders, and Montesquieu and the influence he had on our framers. And again, you extract all of the relevant writings and teachings of these guys. Locke had a huge impact philosophically on our founders. Montesquieu, a huge impact on our framers. The whole issue of separation, right? Three branches of government.
That's right.
So you really tie it together. This ideological war, how is it relevant to what we're seeing debated today?
It's totally relevant, which is why I wrote this book and did it the way I did it. We need to understand. You know, the founders didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, I believe in natural law. You know what, I believe in individual sovereignty. You know what, I believe in divided branches. I believe in consent of the governed. We have been the targets of such a dumbing down process in our education system, by our politicians, by the media, that I feel it's time to re-educate ourselves. What is the American spirit? What is the heritage? You know, and if we don't discuss what undergirds the Declaration, the Constitution, and on the other hand, what Obama's doing, what FDR did, and Wilson did, what they're doing is tyranny of hundreds and thousands of years old, and these things need to be explained.
You know, because it's fascinating. As I read the excerpts that you pulled from Plato and Hobbes and Marx, it sounds a lot like the modern Democratic Party. When I listen to really smart conservatives that really understand limited government, the individualism, you know, I hear Locke, I hear de Tocqueville, I hear the people that you quote on the other side of it. So it seems extraordinarily relevant. There was a funny line in it. Our friend Jedediah Bila wrote it in her review of your book. You know, we're smart enough to pick our own leaders, but, you know, we're not smart enough to
pick our
own light bulbs.
That's in the book.
Yeah, or put salt on our table if you go to a restaurant in New York.
Well, because what people need to understand is Locke, de Tocqueville, Montesquieu, Jefferson, many, many others have talked about the fact that you can elect your own tyrants. You know,
yeah, all of them warned about that.
And you can have a Congress of tyrants. And the reason is that these people pile law upon law and create these administrative states that operate on their own. You keep electing them, but they keep empowering themselves.
All right. What is the future of America, and how important is this election? And which America will we ultimately decide that we're going to go down which road? We're going to continue with the great one. You want to throw us out?
Sure.
All right.
Where do I throw
this.
it?
Throw it at him, right over there.
Okay, you know where you hit me with this thing?